What's up, Team Diadem? We're back with a very special Courtside Sessions episode. As you can see behind me, we're actually courtside. Not only that, but this is part 2 of a 2-part series we have with the legendary coach, Nick Saviano.
I don't know about legendary, but hardworking coach, Nick
Yes,
Saviano.
sir, definitely. And if you didn't catch the first episode, we got to learn a lot about Nick's journey through tennis from his junior days in California, playing college in Stanford, his time on the pro tour, and then his transition to coaching and his climbing through the ranks of high performance. And today, I'm really excited to break down a little bit more about your coaching philosophy that I find very fascinating and applicable to more than just tennis. I think it really something that can resonate with any sport and life in general too, right?
Okay. Well, I'm so passionate about coaching, and a lot of the younger coaches don't understand where my passion comes from. And it's really about my philosophy and what I believe right as deep in my heart as it could possibly be. And that is fundamentally, you work with young people, it's a sacred trust. I say that all the time. And so with that comes a commitment from yourself to be everything you can be. There's an enormous responsibility. So with that commitment of being everything, there's mosquitoes out here, with that commitment of being everything you can be means that you have to constantly grow and evolve and push yourself and set your own standard of going beyond excellence in order to continually grow and evolve as a coach. And you owe that to these children that you're working with and the parents that entrust you. Now, given that, my feeling is that the coaching needs to emanate from fundamental principles of life success.
Yes, sir.
And they are things that are so important because it's different than just an adult. You're planting seeds of greatness for young people, even when they don't fully understand what you're doing. So as I've used examples before, people that say it's so important to control your reactions to a difficult situation. Don't lose your cool. Well, that's easy to say to a young person, very hard for them to do. However, you can invoke things in life or in their parents' case. You say, well, your dad or your mom at work, do you think if things don't go well, they throw their hands up and they throw their desk apart? You know, they throw things off their desk and they say, that's it, I'm not bothering anymore, I'm leaving for the day. Obviously, that can't happen. Or they can't sit at their desk, if they have a desk, and pout the rest of the day and not put in a good effort. So you're always using these analogies to incorporate the importance of fundamental principles of life success. I've used it before: staying focused on the hit, letting go of the outcome, controlling things that you can control, being joyous and passionate about what you're doing. These are all fundamental principles of life. And those that work towards mastering them will lead to success. You can't guarantee outcomes. So let go of trying to guarantee that and focus in on yourself. It's not so much about beating the other person. It's about you being everything you can be in order to really demonstrate the gifts you've been given to their fullest extent. So fundamental principles of life success need to be incorporated and permeate throughout of all of your teachings. Then there are fundamental principles. The next phase is of coaching, teaching, mentoring, parenting. Things like tell kids what they can be. Tell them who they are in a positive way. Then go to what they can be through hard work and perseverance. Almost never tell them what they're not. And if you are, you might say, we really want to focus on your footwork, and then turn around and say, you know, if you gain 2 or 3 steps of speed, which you can, it's going to be amazing how much that helps you. So you're focusing in on what is possible. And within that context, you want to create visions of what the person can be. So visualization is so important. Positive self-talk. If you start to morph into the self-talk that you have, if it's negative and downbeat, that becomes part of your personality. Your brain starts believing the negative information you are feeding it. Conversely, if you're talking in positives, in terms of what can be in a positive way and all that, the excitement that goes with it, always with the key point of how hard you work, persevere, rise above adversity. These are always fundamental principles of life success that we want to use to get them to accomplish these things. And so there are keys that you want to teach as a parent, as a teacher, as a coach, as a mentor. From there, you go to fundamental principles of tennis. And yes, you can interject different sports, you can interject mathematics, whatever. Mm-hmm. But fundamental principles of tennis. Then you break it down to all the key areas of tennis: technique, tactics, training, competition, all of those nuances, the fundamentals, the foundation. Understanding that you cannot go to advance the levels that are stable unless you have fundamentals. Just look at math. Well, you can go from adding to subtracting to multiplying, but if you can't add and subtract properly, you're not going to get multiplication. And then you're certainly not going to be able to go to trigonometry, advanced algebra, and all of that. It's the same thing in tennis. If you don't get rock solid fundamentals, you're not going to high performance principles. It's not going to work. And when you see people teaching high performance principles, which are the next layer out, that is predicated on the fact that you have good, solid fundamentals. Otherwise, it's the proverbial house of cards that's going to fall down when things get a little bit rough. So you have this evolving philosophy and methodology, and then the outside is the latest technical and newest in AI, various information that you always incorporate in, whether it be, understanding the RPMs on a ball, what the actual speed of ground strokes are throughout a match. These kind of things can be incredibly valuable for you understanding about the physiological conditioning of the person, whatever it might be. So I am starting with the key fundamental principles in my philosophy, and I work my way out.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. And like I said at the beginning, I think something that's applicable wider than just tennis,
Sure.
But especially for tennis.
Yeah.
And can you do a quick synopsis for me? Start at the core and then work your way out on the different layers, just to remind everybody what they are.
When you say different layers of
the progression of the fundamentals of life and those skills.
Okay, so it goes fundamental principles. Well, first of all, understanding the responsibility of a coach, of a coach, a mentor, a teacher, whatever. That's key. You start with that because that is the humbling component. That is the one where you got to get a mirror out and you got to say, I've got to be committed. So it starts and ends with that. Okay. And if a child is struggling, you make sure you have a metaphorical mirror on the court. And when they are trying and they're not getting it, you better go to the mirror and look at the person in there, have a discussion with them. And so you don't get arrogant thinking, well, I'm showing them the right things. They're just not getting it. Something wrong with them. No, not if they're putting the effort. The onus becomes back on the coach. So that's at the very foundation. Then your fundamental principles of life success. That should be incorporated throughout at all times. Yep. Sometimes more overtly, sometimes as an example, sometimes indirectly. That's planting seeds of greatness.
I like that.
Okay? Then you have fundamental principles of coaching, fundamental principles of mentoring, of teaching, of parenting. And so the things that I was alluding to earlier about take a child, they will become what you tell them they are.
Yep.
And if you speak to them in negative terms about what they're not doing, you're going to get more behavior than that. It goes back to behavior 101. You will get more of what gives them the most attention.
Mm-hmm.
And the more you talk about what they're doing wrong, the more that you zero in on that, the more they hear that, you'll get more of it. It's like telling somebody, for goodness sake, stop double faulting. You know, you're double faulting every time when you have a break point. Well, what do you think you're going to get more of? Double faulting.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to understand the principles of that and realize that as a mentor, as a teacher, as a coach, and as a parent, you want to uplift the child, tell them what can be. And the caveat to that is through hard work, through perseverance, through rising above adversity. There are those fundamental principles of life success coming in.
Yep.
Now you get to the fundamentals of the sport, which is tennis. Well, then you've got to know what those fundamentals are.
Yep. What does that look like?
Well, you've got to know what the fundamentals of technique are. And that might be split step, preparation, watching the ball, balance, knowing basics about biomechanics,
Mm-hmm.
Staying still slightly after the hit, staying down low, having good physical strength so that you're stable. You could go on and on and on. In each particular stroke, there's 5, 6 fundamentals that are applicable for somebody that is one of the best players in the world and they're working on it, and somebody who's starting out at 10. That's really the core of diagnosing what a fundamental is.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that applies almost at all levels, maybe not with a beginner, but at all levels of the game. So you will go out on the tour and you will see many of the best players in the world working on fundamental principles, whether it be technique, movement, strategy, tactics, high percentage principles, whatever. Then you go high performance principles.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be, exploding with racket head speed and, starting to turn over the racket way before the hit, things like that. Like when somebody's going to accelerate, you're going to explode, load up, and in your mind, you start accelerating back here, actually, as the racket's still going back. Very few people go back, stop, and then go forward. It's like load and then drive. There's the lag, and so it builds up speed. Well, that's pretty high level stuff, and that's a high performance principle to maximize racket head speed. So you go from there, and then you have technology, the latest in technology, the latest in any AI information, artificial intelligence, anything that is new from the visual system, how people learn, different ways to improve their reflexes, how people are processing information. All of this is super, super important. So you make sure that's flowing in throughout. And so you stay pretty current, yet you're always going back to your core fundamentals.
Yeah, that's so interesting to me, and I think a really beautiful way to break it all down. And now I would be curious too. Clearly, you've spent many years kind of thinking through and refining this.
If I was sharper, it might have been a shorter distance, but it takes me a while.
Yes, sir. And you've obviously developed some really strong talent, and a lot of it comes through the Saviano High Performance Tennis Academy that we're at right here. Tell us a little bit about your academy and what that journey's been like for you.
Okay, well, I was blessed to work with I worked privately, and then I turned around and started working with the USTA for 15 years.
Yep.
And I think it was more like 12 years. But I had some really good teachers there. My boss was a PhD in education. So I learned a lot about how to learn, how to present, how to study, and how to teach. And so that helped me a lot. So when I wound up leaving after my time with the high performance coaching education department, national coach, then, director of coaching, then director of high performance coaching education. I started Saviano's about in 2002. And in there, as I said before, I never say I developed a player. I like to say that I and us at Saviano's are hopefully positive contributors in their development process. And so we've been blessed to have a lot of really good players. And I mean, I've been, even after, I don't know all of the world-class players that I've spent time with, some more than others, or future world-class players. When I started the academy, I was working with a guy named Justin Gimelstob, who won a Grand Slam mixed doubles with I believe it was Martina Navratilova. He played Davis Cup doubles. He was like 60 in the world. Jen Michael Gamble, who got up to 14 in the world. Vince Spadia, who was 20 in the world. I had spent time when I younger with Jim Courier, with people like David Wynn, a whole bunch of guys that were world-class players. And so when I was starting the academy, I was still working with some of these top world-class professionals on the men's side because I was the director of coaching for men's tennis. And it started with Capriati early on when I was with the USTA, where I started spending some time with females. And then later on, the Monica Seles. It's been so long. It's like a long time ago. She contacted me, so I spent a little time with her. And so a lot of the other gals were asking if they could work with me. And when I started in the coaching education department, I started spending a lot of time with females as well as guys. So this carried over to Saviano's. And so I'm working with guys. So I started working with a few gals, like Jeannie Bouchard at 12, Sloane Stevens at 11, Mallory Burdett at 12. She got to, top 50 or 60 before she got hurt. Laura Robson, who was a tremendous player at a young age. She came at 12 and we spent 10 weeks and then she'd come and go. And she was junior Wimbledon champion at 14. Not when we were specifically working with her, but you're involved throughout. They come and they go. She came back later on to work with me as a young professional. So we had this group of gals that started developing into highly ranked players in juniors and in the world. And we had guys that were becoming really good. And so we had a lot of national champions on the boys and the girls side. And then I was working with world-class players when they'd come in town. I wouldn't travel with any. So all along that time, I'm making painful decisions, turning down people that are household names. And part of that is my family was still young. I didn't want to travel. And part of that was I didn't want to leave the academy. It wasn't until years later that I chose to travel with Jeannie because I was able to, and she, my family was older and she had been with us since very, very young. But, as you go along with the academy, it's not about just the great players, but so many exciting things that I'm so proud of. I got a text the other day, and I won't say male or female, that was so reflective of what Saviano's represents, or I wanted to represent. And I'm not embellishing the text. I'll show you the text off air.
Okay.
This person came to us and they wanted to play at one of the Ivy League schools. But they were like a junior being a senior. So they were with us even less than a year. So this person, really bright. And he was there with a couple other guys. They're trying to do the same thing. So this young man, I gave away that. As a young man, is trying to get in and to get into these schools. And I'm looking at his transcripts, and they are off the charts. We're not talking. I've seen a lot of transcripts. And I also was with ESPN where we were looking at transcripts to give scholarships. So, I mean, I saw some of them, and they're very impressive. This kid is off the charts. How he didn't get into some of the schools was shocking, but he didn't. And he finally got in one of them. And he worked really hard to make the team. And he actually wound up not making the team.
Wow.
But what a great individual. And so my parents, my wife told me, I think one day he might wind up being president.
Mm-hmm.
He's this kind of bright, articulate, and I spent a lot of time with him. And philosophically, I was mentioning to him, it will take you down a good road. Give it a try, and so on. And he did. So this was probably 10 years ago. Yeah, probably. He was probably here in 2014. So I get a text the other day. It was after Amanda Anisimova,
Mm-hmm.
who I did spend a lot of time with over the years, the formative years, and he was there at that time, and he had met her and all that when she was younger. And he says, I saw, hope you're doing well. And he asked about my wife, and he's a super bright kid.
Mm-hmm.
So then he goes to, I saw the match with Amanda, a tough one. And he said, a lot of good things about he's doing well. And he said, oh, I graduated from Stanford Law School.
Wow.
So pretty good there. And then I happened to be clerking for somebody here in, let's just say, Texas. And then after that, I'm clerking for somebody in New York. And after that, and oh, by the way, I'll be clerking for one of the Supreme Court justices,
Wow.
Later on. Obviously, performing at an extraordinary level. Very impressive. So at the end, he says, I wanted to thank you for taking an interest in me, because the things and the principles you spoke about really helped me through my college years and undergraduate and what I've learned. So thanks again for taking an interest. All the best. Da, da, da. Didn't have to write it. Didn't go and get a big scholarship. We worked hard. We worked the right way. He did it. And he exemplifies
Mm-hmm.
what we want to be about. Saviano's needs to be about being a positive impact on the lives of kids. Otherwise, I will shut it down. I don't need to do this. I've been blessed. Things have gone well for me. I've had a long, positive career, and I've done well. I do this because I love it. I do this because I want to get across my messages and the things for young people. This place must be where people leave and they say, that was a great part of my life and that helped me. And if it ceases to be like that, if it starts to be a business,
Mm-hmm.
then I have no interest in it. It is a business, but that's secondary. And if you take care of kids and you honor the parents and you strive to be everything you can be as an academy, and you bring quality people in, and even though you'll trip and fall as an academy where you could do something better or you need to improve, it's the striving and the growing and evolving. If we're doing that and positively influencing the lives of some of the parents and the kids, then I'm excited to do this another 10 years. That's what it's really about. Yeah, I've had Coco Gauff come out here, but the dad was always the primary coach. They came out for 2.5 years. I spent quite a bit of time. I never market that per se. I'm saying it here, but it's like I said, hopefully they think of me as being a positive contributor. That's it. I'm not looking for any credit for anything. Amanda, players that have come out, I could go on and on, whether it be Sloan or Jeannie or other players that have gone on to great universities. We want them to hopefully say, yep, Saviano and Saviano High Performance Tennis always pointed us in the right direction and was a positive contributor in our lives or in our career. We're doing that. I'm an excited guy.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. And it's very clear that if you're a parent or a player that's going to come into your academy, that they're going to leave a better person. And I think that sounds like
Well, let's hope so.
yeah.
Let's hope so. That's what we strive to do.
Mhm.
And so, but we will not keep anybody here that doesn't honor those fundamental principles. They will not be with us.
That's great for the environment.
Yeah.
And then I'd be curious too, what do you think, if you had to whittle it down, this is going to put you on the spot, your number one piece of advice for parents and for coaches in developing talent and working with young people? What are the two there that you would have?
Well, I could break it down into joy, passion, growth, parents, seeking wisdom, which is all teaching. Because when you seek real wisdom, you have to fundamentally understand that it's a sacred trust first to work with children, and that seeking wisdom requires that you grow as an individual.
Yep.
And that you are committed to working hard. It's hard work, rising above adversity, discipline, structure, trying to influence in a positive way, because real wisdom requires it to be distributed. If it's not, you're not wise.
Mhm.
You haven't learned anything.
That's a cool idea.
If you are, quote, I've become wise and I'm keeping it to myself. Really? You ain't so smart.
Mhm.
And you aren't as wise as you think you are. When you have wisdom, you understand the sanctity of life. You understand the significance of being an educator and what that entails. And so this creates an environment. And a lot of times younger coaches, they don't understand. And that's fine. That's part of youth. And and sometimes they think, okay, that's a con saying, oh, all right, we do this because there's a higher order. They learn after a while.
Mhm.
And you know what? I've had a few people there that didn't quite get it, and they were here. They're no longer here.
Yep.
And that's the way it'll always be. And so do I make mistakes? Yes. Do I make many mistakes? I'll make some, not a lot. And I won't make a lot of big ones. But I'm fallible. But the biggest thing is I'm never, ever, ever as good as I need to be, and never will be. And so when you put things in perspective and people come and they'll say nice things about me, and that's fine, great. And I say to them, and they don't quite understand where I'm going, like they'll say things, you gave a very generous introduction, and I don't accept me to being any more than a hardworking blue-collar coach. And they'll say something really nice about my career and all of this. And I said, do you know a guy named Harry Hopman? And most of them will look at me with a completely blank face. And I said, Harry was one of the great coaches of his time. Harry worked with many top world-class people. And you ask him, do you remember like one of the other great coaches in a different field? And most of the time they'll look at a blank face. Some of them will look at you with a blank face when you say Bjorn Borg.
Mhm.
And so you know what? Nadal is the greatest thing ever on clay we've ever seen. We'll never see anything like it. The first clay court grand slam on clay that Nadal is not playing, and they're saying, well, we think these guys have set a higher standard.
Yeah.
You could supposedly be doing extraordinarily well, but guess what? It doesn't matter. You'll be forgotten very quickly. What you want to be remembered for is with those young people that they remember you 20, 30 years later, that you helped them, and maybe some of the principles that you have taught them about wisdom, about being the best you can be, all these things that they then therefore just use that to go on. In which case you are creating a brilliant future. Here's the way I look at it. I look at the high performance pyramid.
Yep.
Not what John Wooden did, because what John Wooden was saying pertained to young, quasi-adult men.
Yeah,
High
college.
school, college, completely different. There's a pyramid of high performance success. And imagine this pyramid. So it's like this. And you have these key fundamental principles, and they build. And you get towards the top of this, and it's incredible high performance that this person has achieved. Now imagine another pyramid coming down on top of it this way.
Okay.
And it slides over the tip of the pyramid and it slides up. And you create this kind of, for lack of a better word, a diamond.
Yep.
And in that is this super high performance, right? But this pyramid that goes this way is about impact.
I like that.
It's about impacting people. And the end of it is the end of a person's life. And it goes like when super high performance individuals start to realize the impact they can have on them, it not only extends their high performance existence. Look at Djokovic. He understands that he has a tremendous impact on a lot of ways.
Yep.
Federer was the same way, Nadal even as well. And so these guys are impacting the game by a lot of different things, the way they present themselves. And so as their actual performance diminished, this other pyramid comes down and they're starting to impact like this. And so in my philosophy, ultimately, and I have this, I'll present it maybe to Diadem, when I put it out in rough draft. These two pyramids where they come, one, the other comes on top. So at my stage in coaching, that high performance can stay for a long time.
Yep.
But my goal is not to just do high performance. My goal is to impact as many of the people that I can in my domain, so that I can have do something that's really super meaningful. And that is the essence of why I do what I do.
I love that. And I hope that this episode and the first episode we did with you helps that level of impact, and some people will be able to see it and take some things from it, and just keep growing and growing. So I appreciate your time here today, and we'll let you go get back out on the court. I think we have a little break, and then you can hit it with the kids, but I appreciate it.
Great. My pleasure.
Thanks.
I'm glad you guys could come out and watch.
Yes, sir. And we got some good action on the court too, kind of behind the scenes, seeing how Coach Saviano interacts with the players and some things that he looks for in that stage of his coaching. So
but I'm always charming. Not always.
And you have the best hair in the game too,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's another episode of Courtside Sessions. Really thank you guys for taking the time to listen, and I hope you got something valuable out of it. As always, special thanks to our production team. Reed's behind the camera, sweating it out right now. He does a lot, as well as the rest of the crew, and we wouldn't be able to do it without him. So stay tuned for more episodes coming your way.